A lot of people were saying it was boring because Love wasn't in it. She was the main star of the show and she really stole fans' heart. Baby, she didn't steal my heart. Joe has had it from day one and will always have it. You Season 4 Part 1 just dropped on Netflix, and this season is completely different. Whereas Joe in the past seasons has been the obsessor, obsessing over these various different women and controlling everything that happens in their lives, protecting them. Joe in this season, Jonathan Moore, is the target of the obsession. So in this video, we're gonna unpack everything that happened in You Season 4 Part 1, listing out the things I loved, the things I hated, as well as some loose ends that we need to tie up in Part 2. But first, hey, what's up you guys, and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Bree with an E, and I upload a variety of content pertaining to TV shows, movies, pop culture, and controversial topics, people, and things. So if you're interested in any of that, well, you're in luck. So do me a favor and hit the subscribe button. Still waiting. Come on. You got it. There you go. And also make sure to give this video a big thumbs up. It helps so much with the algorithm and making sure people find this video as well as my channel. I also may or may not be sweating, so if you see something peculiar, you did it. I also have a toothpaste stain right here, but you can't actually see it, so I don't know why I actually put that in frame. But without further ado, let's get back into the video. This video is going to be just a little bit more chill. We're just going to be chilling out about You Season 4 Part 1 and all of the craziness that it was, because it was so much different than I think every one of us expected. And I've heard like a lot of positive and negative reviews of the show so far online. Some people say they completely love it and how it's so fresh and new from the past seasons, and then some are saying that, you know, it's kind of boring. It's not giving Joe, it's not giving You Season 1 through 3 and his crazy obsessive side. But guys, he's changing. He's trying to be better. He's trying to be a better man, and that's one of the first things I loved about this season so far, is that Joe, Jonathan Moore, is working on himself. He's trying to do better and be better. In the first few episodes, he was still kind of hung up on Marianne. He went to London for Marianne, I think, to find her. And so when he did find her, they had that little squabble in the staircase. He let her go. He didn't kill her. He didn't chain her up. He didn't put her in a cage. That's progress. It's progress for Joe. So I'm like completely proud of my man. He's not trying to get into the trouble that got him in so much hot water in the past. I mean, there was literally a hitman hired by Love's father to kind of like kill him because of what he did in his past life. But I just really want to say that he's doing so much better in this season. I think we should all applaud him for that, actually. He's not trying to kill people. Like, bare minimum, right? But in Joe's standards, like, he's doing pretty good, I would say. And that leads me into my next thing that I've loved so far in watching You Season 4 is this whole whodunit mystery, because it's so much more different from the past seasons. Like, of course, the whodunit mysteries are like overplayed and outdone in like Hollywood. I think with it happening and appearing in a show like You, where Joe is the main aggressor and is the one doing all the killing and the murdering, to see him get framed, I don't know, it was just super interesting to see him kind of not have control, and to see him in this vulnerable state where he wasn't calling the shots, he wasn't making the moves, he was not the one killing people for the first time. Who doesn't love a good whodunit murder mystery? I'm sold. I'm here for it. But while there's things to love about every season, about every show, there are things to hate. Oh, also, I put on some lights because, guys, it's getting a little dark in here. I don't want to say I hated parts of this season, but there were definitely things that I felt could have been left out or I disliked. And the first is the switch from enthusiastic, crazy loco, and interesting love interest in Love to hate in season 4, who is like, I don't know, she's just not it. I did not expect her to be a love interest at all. I was hoping that we were like done with this Joe. It's not giving or adding anything special to Joe's life, in my opinion. To be honest, she's got a lot more drama in her life as well. It's time we start finding women who aren't like, I don't want to sound like one of those people, but broken. It's okay to find love with someone who hasn't been through hell and back. Some people, you know, they don't have to go through every struggle in life for you to have this deep and passionate and romantic love with. That was disappointing to see him like fall into the same trap with the mysterious woman who won't leave all her cards out on the table. She's not like the other girls. She's not like the rest of the friends in her friend group. She is mysterious. She is dark. You know, it was just kind of predictable, and I didn't want them to do it, but they did it. And so that's one of the things I didn't like about the season, is that, Joe, what are we doing? We went from Love to Marianne to Kate. Kate. And I also want to say, while I was like making comparisons between season 3 and season 4, I'm definitely not one of those people who's like, love made the show, and so now that she's gone, you isn't the same. You isn't anything without love. Baby girl, first of all, let me stop you there. Joe, I don't know why you're watching the show, but I'm watching for Joe. Wherever Joe goes, I go. I'm rooting for Joe at the end of the day, because a lot of y'all seem to be getting it twisted that love is the main star of the show, baby. We all know Mr. Penn Badgley is the reason for the success of the show. The other half is Joe's, if you're wondering, so the heart is complete. Let's leave love in the past and introduce someone else, just not Kate. And like, don't get me wrong, I loved love. I love love. I loved love. I think she was like the most entertaining love interest for Joe. She just was, you know, murdering people. It was very much a toxic love. He cheated on her, she cheated on him. They just needed to go their separate ways. Did they need to kill each other? No, they didn't. But the mind of a killer, right? The mind of a killer. Moving along into the next thing that was like bothersome watching this season was the fact that they revealed who the Eat the Rich killer was in the very last episode. I did not want them to reveal the killer in part 1 because I just feel like, what do we have left to watch this for? I just think like they should have saved that big reveal for the end. And then the fact that it was Rice, I'm saying that right, the fact that it was Rice of all people, I just felt like I overlooked him because I thought he would be too obvious of a choice. And so for him to be the killer in the end, I just didn't want it to be anyone that was actually in the friend group. I wanted it to be someone who was completely outside of the friend group and that they knew him from his past life, not being Jonathan Moore, but Joe from California. I really wanted it to be like maybe Love or freaking Marion. I feel like we didn't see Rice enough on screen to be like, wow, it's Rice. I just thought it was kind of like a letdown a little bit. I didn't want them to reveal it yet. I think they kind of spoiled themselves there. And I'm interested to see, I guess, like what part 2 even has to offer. Maybe there's another plot twist. I'm hoping. I'm sure there is. But in case there isn't, I'm just like, well, maybe y'all really kind of dropped the ball here in revealing the killer way too soon. But now let's get into some loose ends that I want to see tied up in part 2, because part 1 introduced a lot of elements. A lot of things happened that I felt like we didn't get a lot of answers to. And so one of the first I'm hoping to see that they tie up in part 2 is what's going on with Marianne. He left her alone after he said that he was going to prove to her that he changed. I just want to know, is Joe still in love with Marianne? Is he still going to see that through in part 2, or is that situation just completely done and was that his goodbye in a sense? Now in this season, the whole reason Joe was able to get a fresh new start in a completely different country was the fact that Love's father actually hired this hitman to actually take Joe out. That insinuates though that people know that Joe isn't actually dead. So I feel like it's only just a matter of time before Joe is either spotted by someone from his past, or maybe his new life and fresh start will become compromised due to Rice blackmailing him. I just think in part 2, someone's gotta like spill the beans. Also from part 1, I'm not too sure about Nadia. I think Nadia is a little bit more shady than she lets off. She just seems to have been very close to the guy who was murdered, Malcolm, and she even wrote him this letter that Joe had to urgently retrieve for her because there was some detailed and potentially very harmful content within that letter that would ruin her if ever anyone found out or got a hold of it. And so I'm just like, I'm thinking about it, and I don't know if Nadia is this little perfect little peach of a student. I don't know if Nadia is that type of girl who's gonna find herself this secret love affair with Malcolm of all people. I feel like she's like better than that. She's got a head on her shoulders, obviously, and she doesn't seem to be the type to fall for people like Malcolm. You know what I'm saying? Her ties and her relationship to him may be a little bit more darker than we think. Lastly, in the first look for part 2, we saw a very familiar face that quite literally shook me. I jumped out of my seat. I was like, babe, wait, was that Love? Was that Love sitting back in the chair? Yes, that was her. What's happening? We're just like, okay, are they opening this can of worms? Part of me is like, it's too good to be true. She's not alive. I think it's just like a little ploy to get us all to watch part 2. It's just gonna be like Joe hallucinating her, and she's not actually alive. But I would be happy to see that Love is alive because I love the chaos that would ensue afterward. That's what I think we all want to know in part 2. Is Love alive, and is she involved in any of this? But yeah, that completes my little ramble of everything that happened in part 1. I'm interested to see what happens in part 2, even though it seems like all of the important pieces and bits have already been revealed, like who was the Eat the Rich killer. I'm hoping still that there's some plot twist, or that some of these questions and loose ends from part 1 are answered in part 2. How did you feel about part 1? What did we love? What did we hate? Did you like this little whodunit murder mystery? Did you think it was like different good or different bad? And also, what are some of your questions that you want answered for part 2? Just let me know. I just want to thank you so much for watching to the end of this video. If you made it to this point, I literally love you. You should definitely subscribe. And also, like I said, make sure to give this video a big thumbs up to let me know you'd be interested in more videos like this. But with all that being said, guys, thank you for watching to the end, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye!
yeah.